evening, and thanks again for another edition of Ideas Exchange. My name is Ahianyo. Lots happening this week. The latest, I'm sure you know, is the agitations within the NDC, especially because of what has happened in Parliament. A reshuffle that is causing a lot of agitations, arguments, assurances. People are talking about confusion, open fights on NDC platforms. And of course, the opposition, which is fueling it. A lot of people do not even know how this will end. And there is a level of uncertainty within the party. But they are assuring everybody that it's okay, it's normal to see this happening. This week started with the latest revelation on the National Cathedral project, and which later was something that many people at least heaved a sigh of relief, because Reverend Eastwood Anaba and Archbishop Duncan Williams issued a statement, spirited statement, that called for the suspension and an independent investigation, which later saw a response from the Secretariat saying they are open to investigations by the Shraj. And then we also know that the real McCoy is the bread and butter issues. That is the Auditor General's report, which has made some revelations, shocking revelations that will bother you. These things are of interest to many people. But I'll be introducing my guest, and after that, we'll walk you through the issues. My guest is a lawyer, is a member of Parliament, is a young man many people see as an asset, and there's already conversation that he should be retained because these are the fine brains NDC needs going into 2025 to 2029. That is the next Parliament. He's a member of the Public Accounts Committee, and he's here with me in the studio. He's called Roxanne Dafamakpo. Actually, his real name, I want to mention that long name. I saw it today. It is Roxanne Nelson Ete Komi Dafamakpo. I mentioned Komi because he eats banku. You are welcome. Oh, of course. I shouldn't have said banku. I should have said owo demi. You are welcome. Thank you. It's been a while. Yes, you've been all over. And I've been hunting you.
Yes, that's the nature of the work. You need to be up and doing when your party is in opposition. You need to prepare well, read thoroughly, and have the facts and figures at your fingertips so that you can respond to issues and debunk sometimes the propaganda against opposition, and also set the record straight in many circumstances. So that's what we've been doing.
Many people were asking me when they saw the flyer on today's topic, and were asking, why won't you talk about what is happening in NDC? And I said, okay, you have done so much research. In fact, this is about a 22 page document that you summarized and shared with me when I knocked your door for this conversation. But we cannot do this conversation without asking you how you feel about the reshuffle. We understand some MPs are putting their signatures together to petition the party, and there's been some backdoor conversation. What do you know? What do you want to share with us?
Let me first of all say good evening to my constituents in Peki, Balime, Beve, and Tongo, and especially my boys in Germany, my Okada boys, who I hear the police came to trouble them today, and so I had a lot of calls to intervene. You know, most of them don't have the requisite licenses and all because of the peculiar circumstances. So they often get trouble by the policemen. So I'm pleading with the district commander to go easy on my boys. They have to feed.
Of course.
Times are hard.
And I've been to those terrains before. Roads are bad.
Yes,
cars hardly fly those areas.
My
so
roads are in
the source of livelihood and movement is basically Okada and this Prajia and so on.
Yes, and my roads are in a particularly atrocious state in South Dine. I can mention all the roads that are in a very, very terrible state, but that is not the cause for today. So I just want to assure them that some work is being done to, as it were, reshape and re-gravel some of them for easy motoring purposes. So my boys from Pig Farm in Germany, good evening to you. And
NDC
yes,
and Parliament.
my brother, 3 days ago, leader called me and to prepare to do some research for him because he was supposed to have some TV interviews. And so we spent most of the time in Parliament. And then I think he left around 5 p.m. I left around 8 p.m. And only for the next day for him to be removed from office. I can understand the issues. I can appreciate the issues. But those who know me and know my relationship with the Honorable Haruna Idrisu knows that we are very close, very, very close. I have blossomed in Parliament under his wings. Our party's constitution is very clear as to who has the power to effect change in leadership, and it's the party from Adabraka. So I'm not fighting them, but I think that the issue, as my other colleagues are canvassing, is in respect of the manner of the change. And because you see, it can happen to others too tomorrow. So that's why my colleagues and myself are saying we should re-engage. By all means, the new people are also very close friends, especially people don't even find the difference between myself and Agboja sometimes out there. People call me, hey, Honorable Adaklu. They actually refer me to that. And people also refer to Kwame Agboja as Honorable Defiamepo, you know, and before they realize it's not me, it's not Agboja, and that it's me. And then when they meet Agboja too, they realize it's not me, and that is rather Agboja. So Agboja, people to know that he and I, we are like twins. He's my big brother, but we are also very, very close. So it's a mixed feelings for me that you are removing my mentor and also bringing in my brother. So it's been a very difficult day yesterday and today. But be it as it may, we are all calling for cooler heads in this matter. My other colleagues who are agitating, I'm urging them to. Leader himself has always taught us that the party's decision is always supreme. Whatever the party decides, we must always stand by it and defend it. That is how he taught us in Parliament. That's how he led us. There were times that he would bring some party decisions from Adabraka. We will vote as backbench members. But he you know, he has a very extraordinary level of demeanor in terms of calmness. Haruna Idrisu, you hardly will see. I've never seen him angry like the normal. So when we agitate, he will be calm. He has a way of calming us down, and he will tell you, we are here to serve the interests of the party. We are not here to deal in our interest. Whatever the party decides is what we must prosecute. So if the party says we should do A, and people in their humble opinion think it should be B, leader will tell you the party decision is supreme. You must always stand by it and defend it. And in this matter, we haven't spoken too much. I think I've spoken to him, I think, twice.
Within the space?
Yes. He's a human being. It's difficult, you see. And I'll go into a bit of history. The history has it that we haven't changed our minority leader in opposition, because we have always made the changes rather in government. So when you change your leader in Parliament, you are bringing him into the executive for a greater role. Because when you are in leadership in Parliament, your role is confined to legislative and parliamentary duties. But when you are brought into a ministerial role or into the executive to man a certain sector, then that is bigger. That's my humble view on the matter. So, but in opposition, we haven't had a change such as this. So it's also traumatic. Traumatic in the sense that You are asking a leader, such a charismatic leader, to leave. So you are making him to retire to the general membership. You know, whichever role he will be given. I've combed the constitution. I'm still trying to fashion or determine how he will be utilized. And you're asking new members who formerly served under him to now take over the mantle. So it's difficult. And you know their facilities too are above average. He's not placed on the same facility as I am. I occupy the average MP's office. He occupies a bigger office as leader. So if you move him from such a facility, you are bringing him to like an office such as I occupy. You appreciate what I'm saying. So these are the issues. These are the real practical issues. But he says he's not interested in those who are agitating that he should be reinstated. No. Haruna is, you know, he's fine. But he wants the generality of the people to understand that leadership comes, leadership goes. He's willing to prosecute the cause of the party to the best of his abilities going forward. But it is us, the backbench members, who are saying that we want to re-engage with the party. The formula has always been, when they were selected, they were brought to us, introduced to us before Speaker was informed.
That's the consultative process that
you see,
has been
I made this point this evening. I think there are a few of our colleagues who are saying things out of sync. You see, consultation is not permission. So we shouldn't create the impression that the party needs our permission to appoint leaders. And I'll give you an example. When our leadership, when they want to appoint leadership of committees in Parliament, it is those they consider to man those roles that they speak to and seek their consent and then nominate them. It is not the committee members who elect leadership of committees. So when people are saying we should elect our leaders, it's not a convention that we are used to. They are appointed for us. Because you see, we are elected by a larger group on whose behalf we also take decisions. Somebody asked me today, if we are agitating that you should be consulted. When you are taking decision in Parliament, do you always come back to us in the constituency to consult us? You know, even the ordinary people, sometimes so I want us to be very careful how we stretch the issues.
So
all that we are saying, Ahianyo, is that we want to meet with Adabraka and realign the issues and let them know that even if such a decision will be taken, it's important that they engage. And I'll say this, just for the record. When in 2020, January 2017, when the Haruna-led team was initially appointed, they were introduced to us, and we welcomed them and worked well with them. When they were renewing their mandate in 2021, January, when there were, since that time, there had been some undertones of change in leadership.
I remember as 5 months ago, yes, they were throwing names like Ato Forsons and
not even this. I speak of 2021, when we came back to the 8th Parliament, and leadership had to be, again, because after the 4 years, new leadership, the party decided to retain all of them in office. There were undertones, there were agitations, minor though, but I heard them. So what the party did was to ask each of the caucuses to ask it to a vote whether to retain the 5 leaders or to change any of them, all of them. And all the caucuses voted, as it were.
In spite of the agitations, endorsed?
Oh, in spite of the silent agitations, they were all endorsed, overwhelmingly. It means there were a few dissenting voices, but they got drowned by the majority, overwhelming majority. So, you see, the party itself has set this precedent. That is why members today will say that we want to be consulted. we want to be consulted. The consultation, you ask them to actually do caucus voting. So I want to urge the party to also look at the issues from the perspectives of my caucus colleagues, so that we can look the debt that this Auditor General's report has brought out, and the National Cathedral matters, and all these matters that the NPP is drowning in. This is not the time for us to as it were, use our precious time on dealing with a matter that ought not to receive airtime at all. You know,
this is not our topic, but maybe 2 seconds in quotes to paraphrase this. I've seen or heard invectives thrown at the former president, or threats here and there, and what has generated that concern that it may not go well for the party if this is poorly managed. Are you optimistic you will overcome this as soon as possible?
This is not a problem by JM. This is an Adabraka matter versus Osu matter.
Osu,
that's Parliament. This is an issue.
Are you not being very diplomatic in this response?
No. This is an issue between Adabraka and Osu.
Okay.
JM, the city is somewhere. He has no role at all.
He's in London actually.
Yes. If you look at our party structure, these matters are decisions that are normally within the time frame that they are to be taken by the party leadership.
But some have said that because leader, as you call him, has done so well,
yes,
from how he entered Parliament and how fast he rose to be who he has been, it may have served the interest of the caucus if he had finished. Others have this school of thought that the agitation at the grassroots would be that the confidence in all of you is waning, and therefore the change of face may revive the enthusiasm among the party. Share that thought in 30 seconds.
You see, it's difficult for me to question the propriety of the decision, because when you are given power to exercise, you exercise it, though not capriciously. So what I'm saying is that my caucus is asking for re-engagement with Adabraka. Let's do that.
Okay.
And let's straighten the issues.
All right, thank you. So
Haruna is not saying that reinstate me. He hasn't said it anymore.
All right. So our discussion tonight actually is on the Auditor General's report spanning 2020 and June 2022. I've deliberately couched the topic as our taxes, COVID-19 loot, and today's threat to your investment. I've chosen this carefully because as we speak, lots of people are crying because their investment or their savings are facing possible haircut because of how the economy is today. Government has consistently been blaming this on COVID-19, that COVID-19 and lately Russia-Ukraine war is the cause of our economic crisis. And so when you open the books and you see what we are about to discuss, how do you feel? For example, I'll give you a summary of the Auditor General's report before Roxanne Dafamakpo will walk us through. For example, only 25% of the $2.5 billion government borrowed was spent on COVID-19 related activities. Only 3.5% of the amount was spent through laid down regulations. Free water, free electricity cost $250 million, nearly $50 million dollars still unpaid. For example, $37.6 million bill for free water supply to NGOs and private water operators can be validated. And then the Ministry of Information and can't be validated.
Yes.
Actually, that's what I shared on the screen. And Minister of Information and his senior colleagues, 151,000 when the nurses have not been paid. In fact, that is our conversation today. Now, when you received the report and you perused it, what was your first reaction?
First of all, let me give you a brief history behind this report. You know, as we speak, as a member of the Public Accounts Committee, we are interrogating the 2020 Mother Annual Report by the Auditor General. The normal reports that they conduct
periodically.
Annually, of all state agencies. They have done that. We are interrogating that report. This COVID-19 report is a special audit. You recall that the minority moved a motion and asked that the COVID-19 expenditures be gone into by Parliament. You know, the motion was shut down, if you recall.
I remember very well.
The argument of the government side, or the majority side, was that it was only the Auditor General who had the power under Article 187 to audit the report of state agencies.
That was when the Speaker had traveled. Yes. I remember very well.
So they shut it down. Then they brought a facility. So they shut it down. So we all resign ourselves to fate and hope that when it gets to 2020, 2021, the Auditor General will therefore, in considering the accounts of all the public entities, will piece together the COVID-19 expenditures as part of the annual audit that it does. Then, God being so good, the government brought a certain facility, some loan.
That 1 billion.
Yes. And wanted us to approve of it. Then we said, nada. To approve of this facility, we will have to receive an audit of the COVID-19 expenditures, because that facility, a chunk of it was going to go into another COVID-19 expenses. So the Speaker directed. So the loan had to be stood down. And Speaker directed that the Auditor General conducts a special audit of the COVID. So this entire project is an NDC initiative. Yes. And also because as part of the IMF conditionalities, it became a requirement that for us to be able to even support them in terms of some of the programs, even in Parliament, we demanded that they ask them to produce a special audit of the COVID-19 expenditures.
Are we sharing that on your screen? Because in your summary, the work you did, yes. How long did it take you to complete this?
An overnight. So this is the 160. This is the report. This is the 160.
And you have reduced it to 21 pages.
21 pages.
Right. You would see that I've shared something
with the help of my PA, my assistant.
Okay.
Yes.
So you would notice from what I'm sharing on the screen that it comes with a summary.
Yes.
So the sources of funding.
Yes.
So speak to it, sir.
Okay. Now, if you look at the sources of funding for all the COVID-19 expenditures, the first funding source was from our contingency fund. They took 1.2 billion from that fund. Then the World Bank group came in. So first we got $65 million, equivalent of 353 million Ghana cedis. Then we got another $35 million, which was equivalent to 204 million Ghana cedis. Then we got another $130 million, equivalent of 603 million Ghana cedis. Then we got another facility, $200 million, equivalent of 816 million Ghana cedis. Then IMF came in and gave us 1 billion, which was equivalent to 5.5 billion at the time. Then the African Development Bank also came in and gave us nearly $400 million, which was $398 million. Then the EU gave us 569 million Ghana cedis. Then the Bank of Ghana floated bonds. That's 10 billion.
10 billion?
Yes. And gave to finance, if you recall.
I recall.
You recall that Bank of Ghana.
And your side questioned
that
Bank of Ghana had.
Yes, Bank of Ghana has no capacity to be giving money to government. So, but they did. Then other government of Ghana's funding sources, so it was 2.1 billion. If you put all this together, it came to 21,804,189,185.24 pesos.
Wow.
This was how much we got. Now, listen to what the auditors are saying. The auditors are saying that of all the monies that we got, only some amount of money was spent on COVID. And this was what they said. They said that they noted that out of the, for instance, the $430 million that was made available to government of Ghana, a total amount of $328 million was disbursed to the Ministry of Health for various approved health interventions as of June 2022. Do you understand what they are saying?
I do.
So not all the monies went into health. All right? Then they're also saying, if you go to paragraph 31 of the report, they are saying that out of the total amount of money that I just quoted,
that's the 21.8 billion cedis.
It was, government spent only 11.75 billion on COVID activities. So the rest of 8,658,124.96 Ghana cedis was spent to support budget, you know, in 2020. Then 3 billion was also spent in 2021. Then 7.8 was also spent to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So when government claims that all our problems as we face presently was due to the COVID-19 expenditures, not all the monies went into COVID expenditure, because the report says that a chunk also went into budget support. A chunk went into budget support, and that is contained in
so we can be speaking,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
If you look at the budget support,
what I see here is the breakdown.
No, if you go to paragraph 27.
Okay. Yes, I've seen it, paragraph 27.
The audit established that as of 28 September 2020, the government of Ghana received 398 million from the African Development Bank to support.
And for those of you who are following us, we are sharing some of the details as summarized on the screen, but you can go ahead with the conversation.
Now, if you speak of budget support, it means other expenditure programs that government outlined in its 2020 budget. They got monies under the guise of COVID and expended it on those matters. So they were not actually expended on COVID-related activities. I am not saying it. This is what the auditors are saying. So when you say that we incurred debt because of COVID, the auditors are saying that is not entirely correct.
What does this mean to the public, which was consistently told that COVID has brought us challenges, and your initiative that choked government and pushed with the support of the IMF to bring this regulation?
But for this audit, we wouldn't have known, because as we speak, you and I, we are still paying what they call COVID-19 recovery levy. With all the rot that has been exposed by the Auditor General, and I suspect that even this may not be the true reflection of the rot that occurred.
Some of you have called for forensic audit.
This must have been massaged, because a government would have been too embarrassed given its precarious economic situation if they actually want to tell us the true state of affairs. So I suspect that even this report may just be a tip of the iceberg. But even that, the level of rot that has been exposed is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling in the sense that transactions were undertaken during the COVID period that breached our Public Financial Management Act, 2016 Act 921, in many areas. many areas. People were giving cash without recourse to the give me system. Public transactions were undertaken without going through the give me system. People were actually giving cash advances before they supply commodities. Why? Our laws were not suspended when COVID came. So for me, last year as a member of the Public Accounts, we referred so many people to the Office of the Attorney General for prosecution for procurement breaches. And I think that this audit report, if the Public Accounts, if it's late, it's not yet late, the report was remitted to the Office of the Speaker on Friday, 30th December 2022. Speaker's office received it sometime in early January. We are yet to resume. So if we resume, it will be properly laid and referred to my committee. If it comes before our committee and we schedule hearing on it, you will hear the issues. So
all what we are hearing on TV, on radio, is just a tip of the iceberg because
I suspect
people are speaking to it.
Yes, I suspect it's a tip of the iceberg because we'll be delving into these matters. We'll be asking, for instance, how do you purchase a property for 15 million Ghana cedis? And I know the property.
In the Adaklu area, yes, because
those of you who know from Ho to Kwetwe, there's a beautiful school along the Kwetwe Road. It's called Princeville College, private school. We go and purchase it for purposes of turning it into a quarantine center, a COVID-19 quarantine center. We purchased the property, and then we decided that the property was actually not fit for purpose because it's a school, it's not a health facility. So we decided to now add certain facilities to put it to the purpose for which we needed the property. All right? Then in doing so, we are expending in excess of 20 million to be able to put up those additional facilities. And out of that 20 million, we have already paid in excess of 13.3 million Ghana cedis. And the projects are still in a state of incompletion.
Because the report said that it was never used.
Yes, because when you purchase the property, then you discover that it was a school. It was being run as a school. It wasn't a health facility.
So in this case, we have the minister, we have chief directors, we have other advisors within the space because we had a COVID-19.
Let me give you another instance.
Okay.
A similar facility was supposed to have been put up in the northern region. Now, it was also valued around 15 million. They gave the contractor 4.5 million Ghana cedis, and then he abandoned the project site. They became a fugitive. He's gone. I'm not saying he's the auditors. So we have serious issues in this report. And when public accounts sit on this matter, all those persons will be invited to us to answer questions. And there will be prosecutions. I can assure you.
How? Because you've heard this before.
We made the referral. I agree that the referrals that we made last year to the Office of the Attorney General, we are yet to receive a feedback as to their status. But as an entity of Parliament, we've done our duty. So we expect you journalists to follow up on those matters. I don't think it ought to be the duty of Parliament to be chasing the auditor, the Attorney General, whether or not those prosecutions have begun, or whether or not there are further investigations going into those matters for purposes of successful prosecution. We have done our duty. You, the members of the fourth estate, should take it upon yourself to follow up and monitor.
So what we've done so far is just to give a summary of the findings you made. But
yes,
when I go through your document,
yes,
I've seen captions under Ministry of Health,
yes,
Ministry,
because the expenditures,
local government,
yeah, the expenditures went under sectors. So, for instance, we have national security, we have health, we have education,
local government,
we have local government, we have chieftaincy. Chiefs were given monies to fight COVID-19, as it were. The phrase was to prevent COVID-19 in their various traditional areas. It turned out, the auditors are saying that it turned out that they utilized those monies in some cases as sitting allowances, in some cases to actually inaugurate some traditional, some regional House of Chiefs. In some cases, they simply cannot account for it, but the money is gone. Chiefs. Serious matters.
No, so I'm just trying to envisage how the Public Accounts Committee sittings will be like. Now, let's go through the details first.
Okay.
I see here utilization of European Union fund, disbursement of COVID-19 funds, the Ministry of Finance, National Food Buffer Stock Company.
Yes.
Then it goes on to talk about details of findings.
Yes.
Now, the details of findings with respect to some of these portfolios that I've referred to, walk us through the concerns that should bother me as a taxpayer who perhaps is going to suffer some haircut if the conversation goes well for government.
Okay. So, for instance, if you go to under Ministry of Finance, a certain company was awarded a contract of 23.388 million Ghana cedis.
That's Smart Infraco Limited.
Yes. And they failed to pay tax of 1.7 million. And the auditors are saying they should pay.
Right.
Now, why would any company be given such a huge contract with a taxable sum of 1.7 million? And they won't pay?
Could it be that
nothing has happened since?
Could it be that
and it took the auditors to uncover? What bothers me is that when these infractions and serious leakages occur in the public space in terms of public finance, it takes auditors to uncover it. Supervisors don't discover, directors don't discover, chief directors don't discover. It had to take auditors. Then you hear directors defending. I hope you are monitoring public accounts here in terms of the mother report. One other observation I've made is that having gone through the entire 116-page report of the special audit, entities that have been cited in the mother report for 2020 of state institutions, they have all equally been cited here. So sometimes when they come before us and assure us that the infractions that the auditors have cited and that we are sorry it won't happen again, in fact, they actually go back and continue or even do worse.
It only exposes one thing from the narrative that these same people who may be conniving with appointees of government are doing this deliberately, knowing very well that nothing will happen.
Yes, it is the non-happening or it is the fact that nothing happens to them when they appear before the public committee is what is changing. Dennis Brutus once wrote in his poem, he said, the not knowing is the worst part of the agony. Now, when people are appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, they come in a state of trepidation because my chairman, my able chairman, Chairman Aveji, now is actually putting the fear of God into them. People are vomiting monies that they previously would have been told to go and see no more. People are being referred to prosecution. Just last week, I think a week today, when the Ministry of Health came, about 20 entities under the Ministry of Health were referred for prosecution for engaging in transactions that breach the Public Procurement Act. 20 of them. That should mean something. That's why I started from the beginning by saying that as a committee or as an entity of parliament, we do our duty. Our duty is to ensure that people who infringe our laws in this way are punished.
But there are three angles to this.
Yeah.
You have the committee, which will make a recommendation.
Yes.
You have the Attorney General's office, which can decide to issue an advice on the recommendation to the court or for the prosecution to start, which can be sitting on his desk forever.
Yes.
And I don't know how Parliament will whip him to line.
Yes, I agree.
And then we have the Office of the Special Prosecutor where some people are saying Auditor General could have directly made the recommendation straight to that office.
The Auditor General has the power to make prosecutorial referrals to the Office of the Attorney General. But, you know, because of the constitutional stipulation that when their reports are finalized, it must be submitted to Parliament. The parliamentary process is not defined by the Constitution properly. Constitution simply says, if with your permission, if I may read, Article 187(6) says, Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General and appoint, where necessary, in the public interest, a committee to deal with any matters arising from it. All right? So, in the public interest, that's why the Public Accounts Committee exists, to deal with the matters. Now, what are the matters arising from the reports? People have truly chopped money without excuse. So, what is the committee doing? We are making a case for a case for prosecution. So the letters we are writing to the Attorney General's office are actually not recommendations. We are actually requesting for prosecution. So that's the difference. Now, if with time we discover that the Attorney General is failing to exercise his mandate and Article 88 to prosecute these ones, we have other state entities that are capable, such as the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But it will be an indictment on the Attorney General that Parliament will have to have recourse to the Office of the Special Prosecutor to prosecute these matters because it has failed to prosecute earlier referrals made to it.
Somebody sent me a message, Jeff.
Yes.
And Jeff is saying that if you follow the chronology of events, government receives so much money, government spends the money anyhow, the money goes to a certain group of people tagged as people who are apparatchiks of government. The minority demands an audit. There is some cat and mouse game until the IMF comes in to support the minority to push for your demand, which brings this special...
until they brought a loan. Actually, the IMF was only an icing on the cake.
Okay, so
it was a loan that brought
$1 billion.
Money.
I remember that $1 billion which was rejected.
So they had to give in.
So they have given in.
Yes.
Now, what Jeff's message is summarizing is that there is the likelihood that government will continue to drag its feet on this matter. Doesn't mean that if tables turn, it can still be pursued.
There's no time bar to prosecuting crime. So if there is some indolence, if there is some reluctance on the part of any public officer presently in office, occupying public office, to do its duty or his duty under law, tomorrow another public officer occupying that office may exercise his functions properly and do what the law requires of him or her. So for me, crime does not rot. And these are clearly crimes. Because you see, if you read the Public Financial Management Act 921, there are provisions for breach of any... There are penal provisions. Provisions that say that if you contravene any section of this act, so much to apply. So they've indicated what should be done to you if you breach this law. And the Auditor General's report is replete with breaches of this law. It won't rot. Even in 10 years, it won't rot.
Okay, so if you go to paragraph 68,
yes,
and then you walk through 74, 75, yes, 76, yes, and goes on, yes, your procurement of Janssen vaccines, yes, $81 million. Yes, the Ministry of Health, yes, has issued a statement, yes, trying to rationalize what may have caused the delay. Have you read that statement?
I have, and it's such a tragedy. It's such a tragedy because a third world country like us have actually paid money to UN.
UNICEF.
But UNICEF is an agency under the UN. We have actually given money to the UN to give us vaccines. The UN has not been able to deliver the vaccines. And yet they are keeping our money. And they have a country office in this nation.
And we need money to solve our economic problems.
And nobody has even written to as a follow-up as to what has happened to what they supply and what is outstanding. It took the auditors to make this computation to determine that out of this money paid, so much, the value of 81,870,379.80 was outstanding value of vaccines.
But I get a narrative from the Ministry of Health's explanation that it may be supplied after all, and that we didn't have cold rooms to store the vaccines. That caused a delay. Was that satisfactory?
Oh, they say it was what?
Cold room.
No, I didn't. It say it may be supplied after all, or it may have been supplied after all.
It will subsequently come.
You see, we need the vaccines. The vaccines are timeous. They are for a period. People need the vaccines to survive the pandemic. We didn't give money. The UN is not a bank. The UN is not, they don't operate a bank or savings account for which we will deposit our money, hoping that tomorrow they will supply something. We have used for our money. So if they are not ready to supply, return the money, so we can apply it to some
does
other
it reflect
purpose.
Something fishy?
You see, whether or not it reflects something fishy, what it reflects for me is the tragedy that Ministry of Health, which is struggling to put up Agenda 111 health facilities, which has run into serious funding difficulties. We have in excess of $81 million, now the equivalent of 1 billion Ghana cedis or more, sitting with the United Nations, and we are not bothered. And we are telling contractors working on these hospital facilities that we are running into funding problems. And the hospital, these Agenda 111 projects are supposed to be completed to contribute towards health delivery, especially within the COVID-19 pandemic. That was the promise. So a proactive health minister ought to have said, well, if the vaccines for which we pay the money are not ready, return the cash so we can apply it to some other COVID-19 related, because the auditors are saying a chunk of the money were not spent on COVID-19 related activities. And I see that Agenda 111 as a COVID-19 related program or health program. So pump the money into this and deliver the hospitals. That they won't do. This is proactive.
I think yesterday,
yes,
the Minority Caucus vested some of the Agenda 111 project sites. I'm praying that my producers can quickly pull from the files, if we have it, to share the videos, because it appeared as if the contractors had even gone for money and left the project. But you see variation without approval. Then under that, you have several figures that you have put together. Now, we don't have much time to go through this. Now, after working through all these findings, and for me as an average Ghanaian who is a taxpayer, who has been told that because of COVID, our economy is in crisis, and now we have Sixers going for the haircut, that has driven another form of agitation where people are protesting. What does this mean to me, especially with government?
Let me give you this another infraction. The Ministry of Health awarded some contracts. All right. If you go to paragraph 81, 82, and 83 of the report,
that's the variation of the approval.
Yes.
Without approval.
Now, without recourse to the Public Procurement Act, they varied the contract in excess of 4 million Ghana cedis without recourse to the Central Tender Review Committee, which is in breach of Section 87 of the PFM Act as amended, Act 900 and Public Procurement Act as amended.
Which category of people should be held responsible for these breaches?
You are aware some NDC people are in court for engaging in procurement breaches.
Right.
You are aware? if you take the Auditor General's report, the procurement breaches alone by appointees of this government, they are in excess of 1,000 from 2017, 2018, 2019, and now 2020 report. If you put it all together, they are in excess of 1,000. But they are working free. That is the difficulty some of us have in respect of these matters. The disuniformity in the application of the law. So you expect that the law will be applied uniformly, but it's not happening. Mm-hmm. You vary a contract in excess of 4 million Ghana cedis without recourse to law. And you think that nothing should happen to you?
In all these, one issue has always come up: gatekeeping. We have chief directors, we have internal auditors, but it appears as if these public or civil servants who should ordinarily have been playing gatekeeping roles sit aloof or participate in these processes that land us in so much losses. It appears as if most of the time they are left off the hook.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you that hitherto, when they appeared before the public accounts committee, they are cautioned. They are cautioned to go and sin no more. Mm-hmm. So, but I've given the indication that going forward, in addition to the procurement breaches, mm-hmm. we are going to add other infractions like unaccountable interest, where public officers who are given state money to go and undertake a state duty return and never account for the cash that they've been given to go and undertake a public service or to go and undertake a public function. We'll be adding that. Let me refer you to paragraph 101 of the report, all the way to about 102. Okay. In that section of the report, the Ministry of Health actually paid $27,955,702.07, and also paid $9.9 million beyond legal threshold. Mm-hmm. What it means is that they gave monies to people beyond the threshold that they have the power to give. $27 million. $27 million is no money that you put in your back pocket and walk out the streets of Accra with it. $27 million now is the equivalent of about 250 million Ghana cedis.
Billion cedis.
Million.
You are talking about $1 million.
Yes. $27 million mm-hmm. is the equivalent of about 250 million Ghana cedis.
All right.
This is money that can build estates and housing for people. A ministry overpaid people with that kind of money in blatant breach of law.
Under the watch of Ken Oforiatta.
Exactly. And this happened under the COVID circumstances. And this happened in clear breach of the law. And you ask yourself, and listen, look, these are advance payment of a covered entity for goods, services, and civil works. And if you see, the auditors said they noted that 10 suppliers and service providers who were contracted to supply medical and personal protective equipment were paid advances.
And these were quotations as shared on the screen from the Auditor General's report.
Yes.
But I've also seen...
I am giving you paragraph 102 of the report. They said 10 suppliers. They gave them advance payments. The advance payment exceeded the threshold of the entity by $27 million. So how much did they give them? The auditors ought to have told us how much they actually paid them.
And that is why you think that the report itself may not have exposed so much.
Because if you paid 10 suppliers in excess of $27 by excess of $27 million, maybe your threshold demands that you pay them 50 million. So perhaps they had paid them, instead of 50 million, they paid them 79 million. So the auditors, the threshold ceiling is 50 million. So the excess is 27 million. You understand? And they also paid nearly 10 million Ghana cedis. Also,
will this inform your workings as a committee when you resume?
Yes.
Now, if you look at paragraph 151, for example, it says, during our verification and inspection of projects in November 2022, we noted that 3 treatment, isolation, and holding centers completed at a total of 29,173,259.90 was yet to be put to use. Delayed projects, 158.
No, tackle that one.
Okay.
What paragraph 151 of the report is telling you is that we spent nearly 30 million Ghana cedis to build isolation centers and abandon them. So we sank public money into projects and refused to put them to use. That is the language they put there. You see, and was yet to be put to use. That is the language.
No, so let's speak to delayed projects, abandoned projects. Then it goes to, for example, paragraph 163 talk about Macro Structures Limited.
Yes. Now, this is the contractor who was awarded a project worth 15 million Ghana cedis to build an isolation center or a holding center in Nareligu, in the northeast region. If you know Nareligu, if you get to Wale Wale, you go to Nareligu to Gambaga. He was awarded the contract. He was given an advance payment of 4.5 million Ghana cedis, and
he vanished.
And vanished into thin air. I'm not saying it's the auditors who are saying it.
Now, for many who are watching you as a member of the Public Accounts Committee, knowing very well that we've heard this before, if you were speaking to them directly, what would you say? Because we have about 3 minutes to wrap up.
Now, my prayer to them this evening is that if this special audit report on the COVID-19 expenditure doesn't make anybody sad and angry, then nothing will. And so as Parliament, we've taken the revelations in the report extremely seriously. Some of us are even urging leadership of the Public Accounts Committee to schedule a hearing alongside the general hearings that we are conducting on the 2020 annual Auditor General report. We want to conduct another parallel hearing on this one as well, so that we carry this report also along. So it doesn't so that the effect is not lost on people as a result of time. The embarrassment, the scandals in it ought to be kept on the banner for people to know how their monies were misapplied.
What is your expectation from members on the majority side who are on the committee?
I have spoken silently with some of them. They are equally scandalized by the revelations, and I know that on the Public Accounts Committee we don't do politics. We don't do too much politics. Sometimes they cringe, but they appreciate that what we are doing. You see, the function of the Public Accounts Committee is to exercise oversight, interrogate public expenditure, and make reforms and make policy, legislative policies for reforms to seal the loopholes. So what we do is to ensure reformation in the system. When existing systems are not working well, it's our duty to bring legislative reforms to ensure that things improve.
I have heard in the past, when the
for instance, let me give you this instance for example. A lot of entities sited in the rural areas don't have telephone network connectivity, so they are unable to transact on the GiveMe system. The GiveMe system is a technology platform that thrives on the availability of technology network. So as part of the reforms, we are directing, Parliament is directing the Ministry of Finance to resource the Ministry of Communications through its agency, NCA and NITA, to provide the infrastructure in the rural area so that they can improve net connectivity for the entities to be able to transact.
But if the Finance Ministry itself is spending so much COVID money and a certain percentage greater didn't go through the gift mix system, how much more do you expect from the rural area?
You see, the Finance Ministry, which is sitting in the heart of Accra, is not citing the non-availability of network connectivity. They deliberately didn't route those transactions through the give me system. That is deliberate. That is an act that was conducted.
So that is criminal.
With malafide, bad intent. You know, ill motive. That one has been demonstrated. There's no excuse. Auditors have uncovered that because it was perhaps concealed from everyone. So even the officers were not queried.
How about the threat the accounts committee issued in the past that if these infractions are not corrected and prosecutions are done, approvals of budget will be suspended? This has never happened.
Yes, this was the threat issue just last year. And so going forward, and Speaker takes so much interest in what we do, because to Speaker, the public accounts, the work of the Public Accounts Committee is actually what Parliament is all about. So arguably, the Public Accounts Committee is Speaker's most important committee. So Speaker is very much interested in the revelations, in the efforts that we are making, and is willing to support us to do more in terms of budgetary allocation for the committee's work. So we want to assure everyone that there's improvement in how these reports are being interrogated and actions being taken upon them than before. And going forward, we can only improve.
Okay, so we are about to leave. Of course, you cannot go without spending a minute to tell me about how your constituency is faring. Everything okay?
My constituency is very well. My communities, Chinu, Sangam, Wawasi, Vegbe, they come to Kweve is fine. Chokukofe, they are well. The main road from Kweve Junction to the hospital road through the waterways to Chokukofe is
seeing some facelift.
No, it's rather in a deplorable state. So,
but which one is getting that?
That is the main. That's the main eastern corridor. Okay. That is cutting through the constituency, from Askuma through Peki to Kweve to Have. That is receiving a facelift. That is excellent. But the rest, if you leave Kweve, you come to Fugbaji people are well. Kweve itself, the link roads, they are crying for help. So I'm under some requests has come for me to grade the town roads and also cut a few new ones where new buildings are springing up so that we can create access road for people. Then others to asking for network expansion in terms of electricity coverage. Fugbaji is well, Mami Wata Kofa is well, Glokpo Kofa is well, Soji Kofa is fine, Todoma is well, Bachakwa is fine, Baiboma is well.
You know why I'm smiling? The way you are mentioning the names of the town.
Kindergarten is fine, but Todome to Chate to Kairahon to road is bad. Okay. We graded it recently, but we still have some work to do.
We need to find time to visit.
Chate is fine. New Kaira is fine. Abuichita, they are fine. Ahon, Anglatong.
You know your constituency. It's okay.
Chanakpe is fine. Agodake is fine. Fantikofe is fine.
It's okay. Time is up.
Atokropo is fine. Germany is fine. Peki Anyenso all the way through Jake, Avetile, Apevio Blango, Chame, Jobati, Wudume, Agbate, Ajokwe, they are all fine.
That's Roxanne Nelson.
And Akpato, they are fine. Ajebu is fine. Jakiti is fine.
The way he's mentioning the names, it tells me of somebody who likes Banku and
Bokofe is fine.
Of course. That's all we have for you on Ideas Exchange. In fact, the issues are...
Let me use this opportunity to say beautiful good evening to my branch executives in South Dine. my delegates. I've gone to them to return me to Parliament. They have overwhelmingly told me that they'll return me. And so I'm looking forward for that to be stamped on the 13th of May,
and I also
2023.
I also pray that it comes to pass.
Yes.
The reality is that there are some members of Parliament, the public, not limited to NDC, have agreed that they have demonstrated their commitment to the national cause beyond political party issues. And so if I had my vote, I would give it to you. That's how we wrap up on Ideas Exchange tonight. Let's meet again. This program will be repeated tomorrow between 1 and 2 p.m. So call a friend to watch again.